Kickstarted in May of 2018 and then released in February of 2020, Ciel Fledge is a racing game where you take on the role of raising a little girl for 10 years until she's ready to head out into the world. Developed by Indonesian-based studio Namapa and published by P-Cube, Ciel Fledge tells the story of a young girl named Ciel who is the survivor of an attack on her home of Arc 5, who is then brought into your home on Arc 3. You, as the parent, are tasked by the administration to take care of her for 10 years until she is old enough to be out on her own. The game's structure is very similar to the game Princess Maker, where you as the father raise a young girl into an adult, and the choices you make will affect the outcome on what your daughter becomes after 8 years. Unlike Princess Maker, where you plan out your daughter's schedule month by month, in Ciel Fledge you plan out Ciel's schedule on a weekly basis, where you can give her different activities to do at school and give her days to rest. Eventually, you will unlock jobs for Ciel to perform, which will earn extra money for the household, which you can use to buy items and clothing for your daughter. Later, you'll be able to send Ciel on exploration expeditions on the surface of the world, where she will encounter obstacles, some trader NPCs, and some hostile creatures. During Ciel's childhood, she'll encounter and befriend many individuals with their own backgrounds, and as she grows up, she learns more about them as well as think about what she wants to do in the future. She begins to learn more about the world, and eventually encounter some scenarios where her decisions will have a great impact on the world and those around her. Ciel can reach many different endings depending on the way that you have been raising her, with some endings being abrupt if she is mistreated, or in worst case scenarios, she dies. It will be up to you as a parent to care for Ciel until it is time for her to leave and live on her own. However, is it worth raising Ciel into an adult, or should she, as well as this game, be abandoned? For transparency, a copy of this game was provided courtesy of the publisher. Now let's take a look at what makes this simulator good in The Good. The game setting is very interesting as it takes place on one of the 7 floating colonies above the surface, which has been left in ruins by creatures known as the Gigant. Through interacting with the various NPCs Ciel befriends, you will learn more about the current state of Arc 3 as well as how life is on the surface. As the years progress, you get to see a bit of the daily lives of these characters as well as learn about their struggles and aspirations, which I really liked in the game. It makes the setting feel more alive as we learn more about the world and these characters along with Ciel. You'll also get to see everyone change as you advance further in the game, where some characters look vastly different in Ciel's adult years compared to when she was a child. The game gives a lot of freedom on how you wish to raise Ciel, as she has 5 base stats to improve from, as well as skills she can learn within each stat. When you begin the game, you will have a limited selection of options to help you become accustomed to the game's systems. Once Ciel's stats improve, she unlocks new abilities and you can spec her as you see fit. It's always rewarding to have her work towards unlocking the next activity and feels satisfying when you do finally unlock it. Another way the game gives you freedom is in the way that you raise Ciel, as there are some parenting parameters you can use with each coming with their own costs and benefits. If you want to be the type of parent that's easy on their child, you can make that possible, and it will make monitoring Ciel's weekly progress much easier as her stat degradation is lowered, allowing you to fit more tasks in her weekly routine. This makes the game easier, but it will eventually cause Ciel to become spoiled and gain less from her activities. If you're the type that wants to be strict on Ciel, that is possible as well. However, this will make monitoring her weekly progress much harder, where you won't be able to fit as many tasks on her weekly schedule, and you may need to use items to help Ciel's mental and physical health to make it through the week. But if you maintain this parenting style, Ciel will become a Spartan, and will gain more from her weekly activities, allowing you to unlock more activities and master her skills faster. Periodically during Ciel's week, or during her explorations, she will have an encounter that will prompt a minigame, which is where the battles come in. There are 3 types of battles: quiz battle, score battle, and fight battle, and each of them use the minigame in different ways. The minigame is comprised of a 3x3 grid of 9 cards, and you will have a deck to pull cards from. The cards come in 4 different colors: and part of the goal of these battles is to match up 3 cards of the same color, called a set. It sounds simple, but what makes them a bit challenging is dependent on the type of battle you are doing, as each one comes with its own certain win conditions and restrictions. Quiz Battle will have you match specific cards until you achieve its goal, while Score Battle will have you match cards and use techniques to reach a score requirement. Attack Battle usually has you either defeat opponents or survive with your HP, where matching 3 cards will cause Ciel to attack. In each of these battles, you'll have the use of techniques you can equip prior to starting Ciel's week. Each technique requires certain color sets to use, and each have their own properties on how they aid Ciel in battles, with some techniques being useful in specific battles. After each battle, Ciel will have stat boosts, and if she fought a creature, she may receive items. Items can help Ciel during or after her week, recover some of her lost stats, and increase her affection for you. Speaking of her affection, I love how Ciel from time to time will have something to talk about with you. Whether that is something she learned about, your parenting style changing, or why you dressed up Ciel in a swimsuit for the week. There will be story moments which will require you to make a choice for Ciel, but some options are locked off if Ciel's affection for you is low, so I like how there's incentive to raise her affection for you. One nice touch I like about this game is the background outside your apartment at the end of the week will reflect the time of day you play the game. Another great touch is how the music changes in the 3 periods of Ciel's life. Starting out, the music will have a whimsical feel to it to match Ciel's stage as a child, but when she reaches her teen years, the music shifts to a more funk vibe that gives a feel of familiarity. When she becomes an adult, the music gives the feel of heading towards the end of her 10-year stay with you. I love how the music captures these essences neatly as you play. One last thing is that you have save slots to work with, but in case something was to happen, such as the game crashing, you won't be set back too far in your progress. I did run into an instance where this did indeed happen to me. Thankfully, autosave kept me from losing progress. This was not the only bug I ran into while playing the game, so we'll be discussing these and what else didn't work when we look at the bad. As I mentioned before, I ran into a couple of issues during my playtime with the game. Some of these were grammatical, while others had to do with the mouth animations. Urken's mouth doesn't seem to be completely blended into his character portrait in the child years, while in the adult years, Helen's normal mouth shape looks off. Speaking of looking off, the art style, while charming for the game, has a basic look to it, especially when it comes to the backgrounds and some of the CGs. Some of the CGs look fine while others look a bit off. Another bug I found was with the availability of certain friends in the late game. In the game's story, some friends will be unavailable to interact with, but you may still run into them during your week and earn points toward their friendship. It gets pretty funny when you eventually have a reunion cutscene with them and they act like they haven't seen or ran into each other until then. One thing I found annoying is trying to find certain activities for certain stats. This becomes more troublesome later in the game as you unlock more activities, as some requirements for unlocking an activity requires you to raise a certain stat, which causes you to go back to find which activity raised that stat, only to find that that activity hasn't been unlocked yet, which requires another stat to be raised first, and you have to go back to searching. There should be an easier way to find which activities will boost a certain stat, instead of searching manually through the progress path just to find the one activity that can do it. I also wish they added a way to check your friendship progress with the NPCs from the schedule instead of having to back out of that menu and go to a different one to check. The game is slow to take off, as you'll be spending a majority of the first hours just leveling up her basic skills, while slowly learning about the different systems. It's good that the game gives you time to get adjusted to everything, but the pacing just feels very slow in the early game, since it takes a long time to unlock new activities or purchase new items for Ciel to help with her stat boosts. Some of the activities also have vague restrictions where, unless you're already familiar with the game, can be easily misinterpreted, like the activities with descriptions containing no noise. This refers to your techniques, but only specific ones that contain penalties, and this can throw off players early on who won't realize why they failed a battle suddenly. Thankfully, there are red markers over abilities that can penalize you, which helps. Shopping for new items can feel like a chore, as there's no way to check ahead of time what store has which item and at what price. The reason this is a problem is because you can only go shopping once a week, and you can only go inside 3 stores each time. This got really annoying in the late game when shopping for new clothes for Ciel, since there's a couple different shops that sell different clothing, each with their own stat benefits. So unless you had a good memory on which stores had which items, be prepared to go home empty-handed. One other thing that disappointed me was the lack of exploration of the game's lore. The game's lore slowly trickles in during Ciel's life, but it doesn't really get explored much deeper until the last third of the game. However, there is an event which may give some insight into one of the antagonists, but unless you're fully prepared, it will spell an early game over for Ciel. I wish the game delved a bit deeper into some of the revelations that come in the third act, which could help flesh out the overall world of Ciel Fledge. It feels like a missed opportunity to give some more depth to both the game world and to Ciel. Now with all that out of the way, it's time that I give the opinion. I was quite surprised at how long this game was. I was fully expecting a 10 to 12 hour adventure and ended up clocking in 38 hours on my first playthrough. I was drawn in by the nicely written characters and seeing how they developed, as well as learning more about the world and interacting with Ciel as she grew up. The game is slow to start, especially in Ciel's child years, but starts to pick up in Ciel's teen years where you will be unlocking new techniques and have more stuff to do with Ciel in general. If you're a fan of daughter racing simulators like Princess Maker, then you'll find a lot to enjoy in Ciel Fledge. There's a lot of charm to it with its art style, music that changes during Ciel's different life stages, and bonding with Ciel and her friends. But now, it's time for my rating. I would give Ciel Fledge this picture of Becky out of 10. Thanks for watching, and tune in for the next Infinite Backlog review. If you enjoyed today's review, feel free to check out some of our other videos and subscribe for more. You can also follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and our Facebook page. Once again, thank you for watching.